What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the program. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show. It's nice to have you along for the conversation today. I want to open by just saying that I'm doing the show today with a very heavy heart, as is any friend or colleague of Hugh Douglas. If you haven't heard, current WIP host, Philadelphia Eagles Hall of Famer, friend of mine, was a big part of starting this show out in its first year, being a guest every Tuesday, as we called it, Tuesday. He lost his son yesterday, Hugh, by the same name, in a car crash in Atlanta. He was a college kid. It's anybody who knows Hugh is friends with you is doing everything right now with a heavy heart, because you know how much you loved his kids, you know how much you loved his son, and I was and still am very beside myself with the sadness I feel for my friend and the circumstances that he has to go through right now, the situation he has to go through, and it's the worst thing. It's the most gross tragedy a parent can ever go through, is losing a child. And I just want to acknowledge it, and I want to let you guys know where I'm at. And if you can send a nice word to Hugh via social media, if you're a friend of Hugh and you're listening to this show, obviously, if you haven't reached out already, I know it helps. I did text with Hugh yesterday, and I know he also reached out to everyone on social media by just saying thank you for all the condolences. I know a lot of people were in a haze yesterday when they learned the news, and I was certainly with them. It's just just immense sadness. We will do the show today. It'll be a fairly as regular show as we can do, but I wanted to start off by just acknowledging it and asking if you haven't reached out and tweeted him, hit him up on Instagram, hit him up on Facebook, or whatever it might be. It would be appreciated. He would appreciate it. The details of the story are out there. I don't want to get into it, but it was a car crash around 5 p.m. Monday. So the details are out there. Just an absolute tragedy. But yeah, if you want to reach out, he's definitely scrolling, and I know it's for what little it could help, whatever positive you could put into that man's life right now. In advance, thank you. Welcome into the show. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show, and we do have a lot to discuss today for what you guys normally tune in or download and listen and watch for, and that has a lot to do with the Philadelphia Eagles today. Their first depth chart was posted after training camp and after the preseason, looking into their first game of the season, taking on the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick. We'll talk to Bill Colarulo of Legal Hands to the Face podcast coming up in a little bit. Bill will help us break down all that is the Philadelphia Eagles defense in particular. We do talk about both sides of the ball, but we will talk about the defense in particular with Bill when he joins us. We will take a look at the Eagles depth chart. We will take a look at the wild card standings after the Philadelphia Phillies lost last night in ugly, horrific fashion in losing to the San Diego Padres, a team that is looking at this series as if it's their last-ditch effort to try to have any chance at making a wild card, as hard as that will be for them. That's how they have to look at it. If we were them, if we were in their shoes, that's how we would be looking at it as well. So we'll talk about the Phillies. We'll talk about the depth chart. We'll talk about coming up against the Patriots. We'll talk about this aura of Bill Belichick, and we'll talk about whether or not it is time to be concerned with Michael Lorenzen, because I think we are absolutely past time to be concerned about Michael Lorenzen. Yesterday, Rob Thompson, when he was addressing the media after the 8-0 loss to the Padres, said he was not concerned with Michael Lorenzen. But there was one thing that he did say that stuck out to me, and it was that Michael Lorenzen was really good for for 2 innings in particular. He's really good for 2 innings in particular. You know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like a bullpen arm. That does not sound like a starting pitcher anymore. That sounds like a guy who, in the playoffs, will be a bullpen arm for the Phillies as opposed to a starting pitcher. And I know I've seen the question out there about Taijuan Walker. If you're looking at Zach Wheeler, if you're looking at Aaron Nola, and then you're looking at the number 3 starter in this rotation going into the playoffs, who's going to be that number 3 guy? Who's going to be the third man up in the starting playoff rotation? I don't think there's anyone anywhere else you could turn. There's maybe 2 options there. Christopher Sanchez, who was in the bullpen yesterday because the Phillies were so short-staffed, he was in the bullpen. Taijuan Walker or Christopher Sanchez. Those are your options. You're going to go with a guy who just for somehow, some way finds ways to win games, stay in games, keep his team in games. Well, that's certainly Taijuan Walker, and he's done that better than almost anybody has this entire season. I know you can throw wins out the window a lot when it comes to the Phillies, or it comes to baseball in general when it comes to starting pitching and wins. But this guy hangs in there, and he gives his opportunities, gives his team a chance to win. The good news is you got about a month before you got to figure that out. But it looks like right now you'd be going with something along the lines of Wheeler, Nola, and Walker. And then Ranger Suarez if he's healthy. And then Christopher Sanchez. And then maybe you have a guy like Michael Lorenzen coming out of the pen. Because about 22 runs have been allowed by Michael Lorenzen since the no-hitter. Over 5 starts. And, yeah. That's not good. And 20 of them have been earned. That, too, is not good. Yes, he's been the victim of a throw last night by Bryson Stott that went awry and allowed an inning to keep on going. But it was just, it's more than just being unlucky. It's not being good enough. So if you ask me if I'm concerned about Michael Lorenzen, yes, I am concerned about Michael Lorenzen. I think anyone that knew anything about Michael Lorenzen knew that 8 innings and a no-hitter was not going to be his MO for his entire tenure as a Philadelphia Philly. However, I also didn't think it was going to be this god-awful, and that's exactly what it was last night. To compound the problem with the Phillies last night, the bats were atrocious. Nick Castellanos saw 7 pitches last night. 2, 3, 4, 5 pitches. 5 pitches last night, and made 2, 4, 6, 7 outs. That's along the lines of, I'm not even mad, I'm impressed. Like that's almost impossible, but that's what he did. Runners on, grounding into double plays. Not necessarily inning-ending double plays, but here's the deal. Usually after a loss like this, where the Phillies get shut out or their offense sputters or whatever it might be, they don't score more than 2 runs. You look at runners in scoring position. What do they do with runners in scoring position? Okay, the Phillies, you know what they were last night with runners in scoring position? Ready for this one? 0 for 2. They were 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position last night. 0 for 2. They had 2 opportunities, folks, to drive in runs that were in scoring position. They had 2 opportunities. They failed both times. Only 2 opportunities. I wish I could bitch today about the Phillies not being able to score with runners in scoring position, because that would at least mean they put runners in scoring position. And they didn't even do that last night. Twice they did it. Not 10, not 12. They did it twice. And a big part of that was Nick Castellanos. Now, I have told you guys many times before that Nick Castellanos, and anyone really that swings at the first pitch, I don't go, I swing at the first pitch. How dare you? I don't have a problem. Especially if you're a guy like Nick Castellanos where you're hitting 330 when you swing at the first pitch. That's pretty damn good. All right. But in a situation last night, like Avila goes into the game, and he is walking guys left and right, and he's going in 3-ball counts like he was in the 3rd inning of last night's game. And Nick Castellanos steps up to the plate and takes a hack at the first pitch after 3 successive 3-ball counts. Then maybe I'm going to have a problem with that. And maybe if you had a similar situation like he did last night with Nick Castellanos, where you had the 1st inning, Kyle Schwarber walks, and Nick Castellanos grounds into the double play on the first pitch. All right, trying to jump on the first pitch, fine. All right. But then he does it again on his very next at bat there in the 3rd inning. That's not a good look for Nick Castellanos. Again, having a runner on again and grounding into a 6-4-3 double play. And then later in the game, grounding into another double play, this one a 5-4-3 double play. Then on the first pitch, that was on, by the way, 2 pitches. That was as long as the bat last night, 2 pitches. Then in his final at bat in the 8th inning, first pitch, sinker over the middle of the plate. I didn't have a problem with him hacking at that one because that was just what he does. I was like, is he in a hurry to get out of here? All right. So Nick Castellanos steps up there in the 8th inning, drives the ball into center field, and it just ended up being a fly out to center. But it was mind-numbing to watch Nick Castellanos in his approach in particular yesterday because of all the times to not swing at first pitches. I would say when a pitcher can't throw a strike is a good time to not swing at a first pitch. I might get that first pitch fastball. I can swing at that first pitch fastball. Yeah, you also might be swinging at a first pitch fastball that's at your feet or it's at your head. Oh, eye level. Let's say eye level. All right, let's go with that. So that is where I get upset about players swinging at the first pitch. You know what's funny? Usually after a mound conference, like if a guy has really lost the strike zone, which by the way, let's not lose this for a second, okay? The Phillies last night walked 7 times. The Phillies last night walked 7 times, and they only had a runner in scoring position twice. Oh, excuse me, they were 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position. They walked 7 times. And I didn't even see Garrett Stubbs in the lineup last night attempt a bunt, which he is so damn good at. And the only guys that got hits, they got 3 hits last night. They got 10 base runners, only twice. They came to the play with a runner in scoring position. Okay. Anyway, Jay Cave got a hit. Brandon Marsh got a hit. And Edmundo Sosa got a hit. Edmundo Sosa starting last night for Trey Turner, who's on paternity leave. We'll get to that in a second. But that was the game, okay? It was the game last night was Michael Lorenzen gets shelled. The Phillies don't play good defense, and the Phillies have consistently terrible at-bats. That was the game last night. Garrett Stubbs didn't attempt his Garrett Stubbs special of laying down a bunt, even a sack bunt at any point, just either try to move a runner or try to get on base himself. You saw Bryson Stott try to do it once on an 0-1 count, and I heard Ben Davis on the broadcast say he didn't like that because now you're down 0-2, and I'm like, well, there's nobody better in baseball down 0-2. If anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Bryson Stott. And they were certainly playing him like a lot of teams play him where they're shading the shortstop. It's the modern shift where they're shading the second baseman into where the shortstop plays. So we tried to take advantage of that, and it didn't work out. Bryson Stott obviously didn't have a good game last night. After a 4-hit night, he takes the 0 for last night. So that was very, very upsetting, unfortunately. But the Phillies just didn't do anything to try to change the tide of the game, offensively speaking. And that was worrisome. And the most frustrating thing about it was that the Phillies have another game where they have an epic amount of walks and they fail to capitalize on it. They had a game against the Pirates a month and a half ago, maybe, coming out of the All-Star break, where they just were sputtering out, and they had about 7 walks in their final game of that series, and they didn't do anything with it. And this was another game just like that. And you have a guy who is literally giving you base runners, and you can't even manage productive outs? That is awful. You're coming off a terrible series against the Brewers. You won the last game. Congratulations, all right? And then you go out in this series against the Padres, and now you're split, and you got to win today to try to win the series. 4:10 start time today, don't forget. It's in the afternoon, okay? Zach Wheeler's on the hill. That just doesn't make any damn sense to me. And it's not going to be any easier when you got Michael Wacha on the hill tonight. Waka. But that's who you got. And he's having himself a great season. So it's troublesome. Say the absolute least about this Phillies ball club. Now, when you get to a guy like Michael Lorenzen, I mentioned that he has had a lot of struggles as of late. A lot of struggles. And when you look at his starts since the All-Star break, since the no-hitter, he has been one consistent mess after another. And that's not who you thought you were getting at the deadline. You thought you were going to have a guy that at worst was going to be up and down. And unfortunately, through this stretch, he has been definitely down. Since his no-hitter on August 9th, almost a month ago, he has made 4 starts. In those starts, he's allowed 7 runs to cross the plate. That is not good. That is bad. 22 runs in his last 4 starts, as I mentioned. That is terrible. And yes, 20 of them were earned. That too is terrible. If that is not cause for concern, I don't know what to tell you. And right after the game, when Rob Thompson was addressing the media, of course, that's one of the first questions he was asked. Are you concerned yet about Michael Lorenzen and how he's been struggling over his last 4 starts since the 124-pitch no-hitter?
It was good early, The first and second inning was good, and, you go through that middle of that order, it's pretty tough. So he gave up, some barrels in the third, settled down in the fourth, and then fourth and fifth, sixth, 3 walks. But the balls that were put in play were not hit hard. So, leadoff walk and the 3 walks as he got into the inning, and our pen was short tonight, so I let him go a little bit. But I do think that his stuff and his delivery was smoother tonight than I've seen in the last 2 since the no-hitter. So I'm not really concerned about him.
How are you not concerned? Like, you just described a guy that sounds really good in the bullpen. Oh, and yes, as we all should know by now, Michael Lorenzen has a lot of experience in the bullpen. But how are you not concerned? Right now, I understand you're a month away from the playoffs. All right, look at here. I'll give this to you right now. This is where you're at in the standings right now, as far as the wild card goes. Okay, so the Cubs are still red hot, and if the season ended today, the Phillies play the Cubs in the wild card round. Okay, Phillies are 4.5 games up on the rest of the pack. Or excuse me, up in a wild card spot. Cubs are 3 games up in the rest of the pack. So the Cubs trail the Phillies by a game and a half in the wild card standings. And then the Reds are a half game ahead of the Marlins. So the Reds right now occupy the 3rd and final wild card spot. So it goes Phillies, Cubs, Reds. All right. Marlins are a half game out. Diamondbacks a game out. Giants are 2 games out, who imploded yesterday. Thanks, Gabe Kapler, not helping us out in the standings. The team blowing a lead. And the Padres are now 6.5 games out. That's where the Phillies are right now in the wild card standings. You're going to need a playoff rotation at some point. Michael Lorenzen can't be in the playoff rotation. As much as I'd love to say, maybe he's got 3 starts left in the season, 4 starts left in the season. Maybe he figures it out, but I can't even go down the road of optimism with Michael Lorenzen because he's been so god-awful over his last 4 starts. And yeah, you could. I thought, I had a similar thought. To Rob Thompson. And the only thing I disagree with is that how are you not concerned about him? But when you talk about how he pitched in the first 2 innings, yes, he pitched fine in the first 2 innings. Then he gets into the 3rd inning, and this is where he gives up the home run to Tatis. 1-1 fastball that he just clobbered 431 feet. So that ball was hit hard, okay? That ball was hit hard. Then Machado comes up, gets the single. Bogarts gets the double. You have 2nd and 3rd with 1 out in that situation. That's when Campusano goes up there and gets a 2-run error thanks to Bryson Stott's missed throw to home. Machado scores from 3rd on that one. Bogarts scores from 2nd on that one. Stubbs dives trying to make the catch, can't do it. Lorenzen ends up making the play and getting Campusano out at second base. But still, 2 runs scored, you're down 3-0. Then you go to the 5th inning, 1-2-3 inning, no problem for Michael Lorenzen. Then in the 6th inning, this is what I'll also agree with Rob Thompson. He did not get hit hard in the 6th inning. He lost the strike zone. Tatis walked. Soto gets a single. You have 1st and 3rd with no outs. Machado walks, so that's the 2nd out of the inning. You get the bases loaded there. Then Bogarts comes up there and hits the RBI single. Perfect place. A bouncer to the left side of the infield. Bone can't get to it, so he retreats to 3rd to cover the bag. Sosa can't get to it because he's not Trey Turner, and I don't even know if Trey Turner's going to get to that ball. Maybe he does, but that ball dribbles into left field for an RBI single. It's now a 4-0 ball game. Then Campusano steps up there again, gets the RBI 2-run single to center field, just off the hands, off the knuckles into center field for a 2-run single. It's 6-0, and then Batten gets up there and gets the fielder's choice for another run at 7-0 at that point. So yeah, I would agree that he wasn't hit hard. But when you lose the strike zone as a starting pitcher and you're someone that the team is supposed to rely on, that's troublesome. That is cause for concern. And when you have done it for 4 consecutive starts, that is a huge cause for concern. I tried to remind myself after his last start that Michael Lorenzen wasn't brought in here to be an ace. He wasn't brought in here to get you consistently 8 innings of 2-hit scoreless baseball. He wasn't in here to give you no hitters left and right. He was in here to be a 6th starter. He was brought here to give more rest to Zach Wheeler and to Aaron Nola and to Taijuan Walker. He was here to give you 6-man rotation. Now the Phillies look like they're going to be abandoning that, partially due to injury and partially because Michael Lorenzen is not good pitching really well right now. So that's where we're at with the Philadelphia Phillies. Whether or not we're concerned with Michael Lorenzen, I think we're all concerned with Michael Lorenzen. I'd love to see more opportunities now for Christopher Sanchez. And if you're going to have an opportunity to put anybody in the bullpen, Michael Lorenzen is a stronger candidate for the bullpen than anything else. And when he talks about those 2 innings, you sound like a bullpen guy. You sound like you're talking about a bullpen guy. And that's what Michael Lorenzen most likely is. Well, that's what Michael Lorenzen is going to be in the playoffs. So why not get him ready for that role right now? Phillies go for the series win. And on a high note, please and thank you. We'll get into that a little bit more in our Morning Rush segment. Philadelphia Eagles released their depth chart yesterday. Before we get into this with Bill Colarulo and what some of the things that Nick Sirianni had to say yesterday, I do want to go through this depth chart because I found it to be entertaining. Now, if you're watching the show, for the people on the podcast, I have the offensive depth chart up. I'm a little surprised the Eagles are still doing this because they did this during training camp, this in the preseason, when they started putting out their unofficial depth charts, right? At the running back position, the Eagles do not have a backup running back. They do not have a second string, third string, or fourth string running back. The Eagles have 4 number ones. And they have done it in alphabetical order again. Kenny Gainwell, Rashad Penny, Boston Scott, DeAndre Swift. All of them starting running backs. All right, fine. Quez Watkins, if you go by this, is the 3rd wide receiver. Olamide Zaccheaus is the 4th wide receiver in this pack. Dallas Goedert's your number 1 tight end, of course. Jack Stahl, number 2. Grant Calcaterra and Albert Benamanon is there at the number 4 and 5 spot there. Or number 4 spot as well. So not a lot of surprises here other than they didn't really name a backup running back. They have 4 number 1s. Yesterday when Nick Sirianni, we're not going to get into it, but yesterday, I'm not going to play it for you in other words, but Nick Sirianni flat out said in the press conference, look, I can tell you guys who the number 1 running back is, but really we're going to read the hot hand. We're going to ride the hot hand. I can tell you we're going to be a running back by committee, but we're just going to ride the hot hand. So put it this way. I said yesterday, I'll say it again. If you have your fantasy draft, it's going to be difficult to choose an Eagles running back because it's going to be split. They're going to cancel each other out. You want a bell cow back. Now, here's the thing. You're going to get touches. You're going to get a couple points because I think everyone's going to get a couple points. So I don't think you're going to get skunked. But it's going to be a running back by committee. There's not going to be a bell cow back. I cannot see a situation where the Eagles have a bell cow back, where there's the number 1 guy and then there's like 2 guys that help out a little bit, right? The Eagles are going to have DeAndre Swift. They're going to have Kenny Gainwell. They're going to really cancel each other out when it comes to overall, I think, fantasy projections here. When it comes to overall stats on the season, they're going to cancel each other out. One's going to catch more. One's going to run more. I think DeAndre Swift's going to lead the team in touches. So if that makes him the number 1 back, then I guess it makes him the number 1 back. I think Kenny Gainwell is going to lead the team in rushes. Rashad Penny probably in goal line situations will be in there a lot. And then maybe if they feel like they can change the pace of play a little bit here, change the momentum and the tempo, maybe Rashad Penny goes in there too in other situations. But that's basically how it's going to work out. So that didn't really surprise me all that much. It surprised me that they still had it that way, but I'm not. But I think that's the most accurate way to describe it right now. They just have a bunch of number 1s, Defensively speaking, you want to get nuts? This is where we get nuts. All right. Here's where we're at defensively with the Philadelphia Eagles. Zach Cunningham, I thought, was the number 1 guy. Zach Cunningham is now 1A and Christian Ellis is 1B. They have slotted both those guys in the same spot as well. Interesting. It's Zach Cunningham. Nakobe Dean and Zach Cunningham are your starting linebackers. Hassan Reddick will be starting linebacker as well. Then Patrick Johnson and Nolan Smith split as the number 2 guys behind the Sam position of Hassan Reddick. That was interesting. But it's Nakobe Dean, it's Zach Cunningham with Hassan Reddick coming off the edge. The corners are not at all surprising here. And then let's move to the safety position. They did not put Sidney Brown as a 3rd stringer. Reed Blankenship is your number one safety. And then Terrell Edmonds and Justin Evans are going to be your number two safeties. Again, alphabetical. I'm very curious. Sunday at 4:25. I'm very curious to see now who your starting safeties are. We know it's going to be Reed Blankenship. We don't know who's going to be next to him. But I thought the Eagles got crafty here again. And instead of putting Sidney Brown as a third or fourth string guy, they just split the difference at the other top safety position. All right, fine. Whatever you got to do. Let's move on to special teams. Who needs a punter anyway? Right? Not moi. No holder, no punter on the Eagles special teams for the Eagles' first depth chart of week 1. Good times. Good times. It doesn't make any damn sense, but this is where the Eagles are at right now. Boston Scott's your kick returner. Zacchaeus is your punt returner. Quez Watkins is your backup kick returner. And Rick Lovato and Jake Elliott, as one would assume. So that's where the Eagles are at on their depth chart. I think most people realize you're going to see a lot of DeAndre Swift out of the backfield as a running back. You're going to see a lot of Kenny Gainwell. Then you're going to see after that Rashad Penny. A mix of Rashad Penny and a smattering, I'll say it, throughout the season of Boston Scott. Yes, he will have a touchdown against the Giants this year, so that'll be fun. Linebacker-wise, it's going to be Kobe Dean, and it's going to be Zach Cunningham. I'm sure of that. When it comes to the only question, other than who's the punter, the only question around the Eagles that I have right now is who is going to be that starting safety. Of all the things they have done a great job of masking, of hiding, I think it's going to be Terrell Edmonds and Reed Blankenship, but I am not sure because Justin Evans will be able to play down in the box like he has been really playing throughout his career. He'll be another linebacker. The Eagles like versatility. When the Eagles got Justin Evans in the offseason, my first thought was versatility. They like him playing down in the box. They like him playing in that sort of Brian Dawkins, Malcolm Jenkins, and most recently Chauncey Gardner-Johnson type role. And he fits that kind of category. He fits that kind of description. So I think that's the way they're going to go with the safety position. Justin Evans, I didn't think was going to start. And now I think he's got a really good chance of starting. If I am betting money on it, I still think it's going to be Terrell Edmonds, but I am not going to be shocked if you see a lot of Justin Evans mixed in there. Maybe if they decide to go a little bit more, the overused word, aggressive, they'll have Evans in there trying to make some plays for this team and not Edmonds. Maybe the more coverage safety calls that they'll have there. I don't know. They've done a great job of masking this one. They've done a phenomenal job of masking. Kayvon Wallace was a starter, and now he's not even here. Now he's linked up with Jonathan Gannon again in his incredible speeches. But that's where we're at right now as far as this Eagles team goes and their depth chart going into the season. Yesterday, Nick Sirianni did address the media. And one thing that I did find interesting, before we get into this Bill Belichick conversation and what Bill Belichick brings to the table and the aura of Bill Belichick and how intimidating that could be and how everyone wants to pick somebody's brain that has been around Bill Belichick, and the Eagles now have Matt Patricia on the coaching staff, and Nick Sirianni was asked about that yesterday. We'll let you hear that. But there's one thing that really is wild to me. And I got to Rob Kestner, who's a producer for NBC 10, does a great job with asking these great questions, following great storylines. One of the storylines we haven't dissected is, yes, we've talked about how difficult the Eagles' schedule is in terms of opponents, but we haven't talked about the Eagles' schedule as far as how all over the place it is. 1 o'clock, 4:25, 4:05, 1 o'clock, prime, national. Like, it's all over the place as far as game times go. So Nick Sirianni was asked about that yesterday by Rob Kestner, and I thought it was a great question because something we don't really think about. Like, a lot of players are creatures of habit. They like to find a routine. They like to settle into that routine. People in general thrive when there's a routine. But for whatever reason, athletes certainly play better when they have that routine down pat. So yesterday, Nick Sirianni talked about having to go through that process and having to go through a situation where you have to be ready to implement all these different schedules They have Schedule A for the 1 o'clock game, Schedule B for the 4:05 game, Schedule C for the 4:25 game, Schedule D for the primetime game, Schedule E for the Thursday night game, Monday night game, Sunday night game, it goes throughout. So here's Nick Sirianni talking about the way they keep their head on straight during a crazy season schedule.
What you're trying to do is just, again, perfect your process for each one. That's what you're trying to do. And so I've tried to do as much as I could studying and asking different coaches, philosophies of all those different things. And at this point in year 3, you kind of have your model for each one. Now, you're constantly tweaking that. Like your goal is to perfect the process, but and to keep tweaking it and getting better at. But you can't perfect the process unless you know exactly what that process is.
I want to perfect the process. That's what you have to do when you have a crazy all over the place schedule. Perfect the process that we have in place. But no matter what, you got to tweak it. You got to tweak it. So that's his mindset going into the schedule that the Eagles have right now. Now, next is this aura of Bill Belichick. All right, the Eagles, ladies and gentlemen, are in an interesting situation here. The Eagles are in a very interesting situation where they're going on to face the Patriots, and there's a couple of things that people keep on throwing in your face. I got a couple of Patriots fans that I tolerate in my own personal circle. Here's the thing they go to. They're honoring Tom Brady. You think they're going to lose Tom Brady? And then I'm reading, and I read Pete Prisco, CBSSports.com, and Pete's got an article. I'm not picking against the Patriots week 1. The Eagles are going to get upset week 1 in New England. I'm not going to pick against them on Tom Brady Day. And I'm like, I don't understand. Maybe it's because I was at the Reggie White game, and maybe I'm just scarred because of that. But when teams honor a player, they seem to suck. They seem to get caught up in the moment. Now, Bill Colarulo, our guest today, he's got an interesting take on this you're not going to want to miss. But people are like, they're not going to lose on Tom Brady Day. I'm like, yeah, they are. The Patriots are going to lose on Tom Brady Day. They're going to be all waving pom-poms for Tom. And meanwhile, Jalen Hurts is going to throw 2 touchdowns, run for another 2, and he's going to be out of the game by the end of the 4th quarter. Yeah, that's right. Run it up on Belichick. No, that's not going to happen. It's going to be a closer game than that. But I think the Eagles are going to win. So I don't buy into the Tom hype. Okay, I don't wave the Tom pom-poms. After that, the other thing is, Bill Belichick. Oh, you're facing Belichick. Oh, he does so well against quarterbacks. The first time he faces them. Okay, you're 0-2 with Mac Jones as your. You're 0-2 with Mac Jones as your starting quarterback on openers. So how does that Belichick aura really affect week 1? I think this is a game that Jalen Hurts is very hyped to play. Like, as hyped as you could be for a regular season opener, great. As hyped as you could be for a season opener, great. As hyped as you could be for a season opener on the road, great. But then you throw in the idea that he's going to be put to the test by beating a Bill Belichick defense. Oh, yeah. Jalen Hurts, he wants some. This is the exact kind of moment he rises to the occasion for. And Tom Brady's in the building, a guy he's idolized. And I know what quarterback hasn't. But if I'm Jalen Hurts and I have the opportunity to go out there and stick it to a Bill Belichick defense to open things up, show off in front of Tom Brady, and walk away 1-0, I'm going to take that opportunity. No, I don't think it's going to be easy, but I do think the Eagles are going to win this game. But I don't buy into the Belichick aura anymore. I don't buy into the hype day for Tom Brady. I don't buy into the emotional lift that the Patriots are going to have. As for Nick Sirianni, he does have a guy on his coaching staff named Matt Patricia who spent a long time up there in New England with Bill Belichick, as we all know. So he was asked the question yesterday, hey, what are you doing to pick Matt Patricia's brain about facing Bill Belichick? What have you learned? Here's Nick Sirianni on that.
I'm always fascinated by people who are consistent, and that's what his career has been, is just this unbelievable consistency of success. And so that's what I'm always fascinated about. And so what you ask questions about is daily operation, the process, daily operations, right? All those different things. Like, look, every time you watch his defense play, you see, the fundamentals on display. You see the smart situations on display, the situational football intelligence on display. And I guess a lot of those things have inspired me to say, hey, what's important to winning football games? Well, football IQ and fundamentals.
He goes on to list what he always talks about for the core values of a football team. And he says that, it goes on with, or it goes hand in hand with every single coach that he's ever studied. Like anyone he's ever wanted to break down, study, and take things from, Bill Belichick is certainly one of them. There is a consistency to it, but Tom Brady was a huge part of that consistency. And grooming Mac Jones into the next one, or at least the next quarterback in New England that will win playoff games for them, is seemingly hard. And they're not going to get – like, here's the thing. You're the Patriots, you're focusing on Tom Brady Day. You should be focusing on Jalen Hurts Day. Jalen Hurts Day at Gillette Stadium. That's what you should be focusing on. I know Bill Belichick is. But some other people might be a little distracted by that. But like I said, Bill Colarulo's got a very interesting take on this. We'll get to that right now. Without further ado, a little bit more Eagles conversation with a guy I'll be working with a lot this football season here on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. Bill Colarulo, host of Legal Hands to the Face podcast. Right now, I am proud to say my partner in crime for halftime this year with Jacob Media and the Eagles halftime program for Jacob Media, Bill Colarulo, also from Legal Hands to the Face podcast. Bill, how are you, brother?
I couldn't be any better, man. The Philadelphia Eagles season is here, and I get to spend every single game with you. Does it get better than that for us?
Add like Seth Joyner to the mix, maybe. Add maybe Derek Gunn and some of the other guys. That'd be a good time. That sounds a good time to me. But you're always breaking it down and doing a fantastic job. And all Eagles fans need to follow you at Legal Hands to the Face and make sure they're catching every new episode. I understand you just did a new episode. What'd you focus on the latest installment of Legal Hands to the Face?
We were breaking down the week 1 matchups against the New England Patriots. Finally, we could break down a game. We've been waiting for this, man. Waiting.
No, absolutely. I was at a point this week. I was driving back from Virginia, a 3.5-hour drive from some of my wife's family down there. I had a great time, beautiful time with the family, quality time. And I just was like daydreaming about the Eagles and the Patriots and kicking off the season. And then like that devolved into like, I wonder what my favorite football theme song is to any primetime football coverage, And then like, it's just, I was going in so many different places during a 3.5-hour drive when my kids were listening to Kids Bop Kids, for the 10 millionth time. But that's where my mind wandered. So when you think of Eagles Patriots, Bill, first thing I want to get into is just talking about the game coming up on Sunday at 4:25. When you think of Eagles Patriots, what's the first thing about this particular matchup that jumps to mind?
So interestingly, I think the only chance that the New England Patriots have to win this game is to try to take advantage of what are the question marks on this Eagles defense? Young linebackers, young safety. So I think you're going to see them try to take advantage of short dink and dunk passes to their running backs and their tight end. And I went and looked last year, that running back they have, Ramondre Stevenson, not only did he have 1,000 yards rushing, he had 69 catches out of the backfield. And then they added Mike Gesicki at tight end, and they still have Hunter Henry at tight end. So that's the matchup that I'm looking for. The only chance I think they have is to try to do some short passing game to both running backs and tight ends to see if they could exploit some of those youngsters. I don't think it's going to be enough, but that's what I'm looking for from the New England Patriots offense.
All right, here's the deal. Mac Jones 0-2 when he's been the opening day quarterback there for the New England Patriots. So everyone wants to talk about how great Bill Belichick is, and rightfully so. But Mac Jones has had his struggles in opening things up, unfortunately for the Patriots, but good for the Eagles. When you look at the Belichick factor, it was interesting listening to Nick Sirianni today. He was asked about the influence, but more or less, of Bill Belichick on him. And he said he's been really picking the brain of Matt Patricia leading up to this particular week about getting ready for the Patriots. Do you believe in the Belichick, not curse by any means, but the Belichick influence on the opposing head coach that almost makes a head coach outthink himself in trying to outthink Bill Belichick?
I'm starting to not believe in that anymore. And I don't want to say that Bill Belichick's success was all because of Tom Brady, because Belichick is a good coach. But you look back at his history, as a New England Patriots head coach, he has never won on opening day without an MVP quarterback. Tom Brady and Cam Newton.
Right. Yeah.
Never won on opening day. And you look at their record over the last couple of years, and it's not been good. He's never won a playoff game without Tom Brady. So I'm starting to lose that aura that I used to have of the great Bill Belichick. So I'm not seeing it for this coming week. And it's interesting too. We talk about Tom Brady. How does Tom Brady Day affect Mac Jones? Young quarterback, still trying to find his way in the NFL, still trying to get accepted by these New England Patriots fans. And you got to start the regular season on Tom Brady Day in Gillette Stadium. You're really going to see what he's made of, because some guys like Jalen Hurts, I think, would rise to that occasion. Does Mac Jones? That'll be interesting to see.
That's a great point, because I obviously was going to ask you about the impact of Tom Brady on the Patriots. Is that going to rally the troops, so to speak, and make them play at the highest possible level of play? But you have it going the other way. Like, what's that do to Mac Jones? Does that make him hold on to the football for an extra second longer? Does he think about things a little too much? So your impact on this game now is more directed to Mac Jones. However, is there any positive impact of a Tom Brady Day for, say, the rest of the New England Patriots?
I'm sure it'll get the New England Patriot crowd excited to see Tom Brady back at Gillette Stadium, and that's going to energize the New England Patriots team, I'm sure. But I'm just looking at it for their quarterback. Does he press a little bit too much? Does he try to force some things that maybe he shouldn't force? But look, if you're not up for opening day anyway as a player, what do you play for? So I don't know how much of an impact this will have on the New England Patriots team. You also have the reverse effect too, where it could excite the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, Jalen Hurts knows Tom Brady was the GOAT. The Philadelphia Eagles know how good Tom Brady was. So that gets everybody riled up. That gets everybody excited. So I'm not buying necessarily that this is going to give the Patriots any sort of advantage. If anything, I think it's going to hurt Mac Jones.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that makes sense. Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. When it comes to Jalen Hurts, I find this interesting to tie in, though, because he's always looked at Tom. I think who hasn't looked up to Tom Brady? What quarterback in the NFL has looked up to Tom Brady? But Jalen Hurts has highlighted him a number of times in terms of inspiration. I feel like, and you mentioned it, Jalen Hurts is a guy that would get up for a moment like that. I feel like he's going to get up for a moment where he can impress Tom Brady with Tom in the building, watching the runner-up to the MVP award perform his job and play at a high level.
No doubt. I mean, what we learn about Jalen Hurts every single day is just how mentally tough this guy is. And I think you're exactly right. A guy like Tom Brady in the building is going to make him want to perform even better. And, I say that, but then along the same lines, it's like Jalen Hurts is a robot in some respects. Like nothing's going to change this guy, but I'm sure he'll be excited. Tom Brady's there. He's going to want to play well, but he really doesn't allow any of these outside factors to affect his game at all. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
I want to ask you about the Eagles depth chart. They just came out with it, of course, on Tuesday. So I want to ask you about it. One thing that jumped out to me was, of course, you know me, I'm all Sidney Brown all the time. So it was one of the first things I went to on the depth chart. And very sneaky. They basically had Terrell Edmonds, and then they had Justin Evans as kind of the 1-2 punch at the, let's say, free safety or strong safety position. And then they had Reed Blankenship, and the backup to Reed Blankenship was Sidney Brown. So they didn't bump Sidney Brown to third string, but they kind of found a nifty, fancy way to do it, more or less.
This Philadelphia Eagles, whoever manages this website, I think they were told, do not give a damn thing away on this depth chart, because they give us nothing for the safety position. They do the same thing for the will linebacker position. They put Zach Cunningham and Christian Ellis as starters. They do the same thing for running back. We got 4 starting running backs on this Philadelphia Eagles team, Farzy. But I still think when you look at that safety position, I still would have a real hard time, as excited as I am about Sidney Brown as well. I don't think they're just going to start him week 1, game 1. I think you're going to see him worked in slowly. I think he'll play a lot of special teams. I will not be surprised if he's the starter before the bye week in week 10. I think Sidney Brown's going to work his way in very, very quickly. But I think they're going to go with, if you look at what the Eagles do, it really does make sense. Nakobe Dean, young player, only played 34 snaps in the NFL. Well, who are you going to put next to him? Zach Cunningham, veteran, guy who's played in over 80 games. As much as they like Christian Ellis, it's probably not going to be him. They're going to go with the guy that has more experience. And I think they're doing the same thing at the safety position. Instead of rolling out Reed Blankenship and Sidney Brown, 2 young guys, put Terrell Edmonds next to him. played a lot of games for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even Justin Evans, been in this league a long time, battled injuries, but been in this league a long time. So I kind of like what they're doing. You have the young position player and you put a veteran next to him.
No, I like that a lot. It all surprised while we're speaking of linebackers here. It all surprised that they added Nicholas Morrow back to the roster after kind of letting him more or less walk.
Yeah, I think it was a smart move. They probably gave Morrow an opportunity to go sign somewhere else. And once he realized that nobody really wanted him, which isn't a great sign for the Eagles bringing him back, but it gives you some depth. They only had 3 linebackers on the roster. So to bring him back, because the other linebacker they kept on that practice squad was Ben Van Sumeren, but who I always say his name wrong, I think, too.
It goes either way, man.
Van
Sumeren. Yeah.
And don't even get me started on Albert O, man. That's a tough one.
Big O. That's it.
But outside of the 3 linebackers on the active roster, I think it made sense to add a little depth there. So I like bringing back Nicholas Morrow. Again, he's a guy who's started a lot of games in the NFL, but not a great sign that he couldn't sign on anywhere else to the active roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I looked at the depth chart, and this is obviously the first one that's come out since training camp and since preseason is closed, they did the same thing at the running back position. They just listed everybody as their number 1 running back, which is hilarious. But Nick Sirianni was asked about it, and he said, yeah, I could say running back by committee, but I could also say that we're going to ride the hot hand. And I think anybody that has watched the Eagles over the last 10, 15 years really can look at it and say, yeah, they're going to ride the hot hand, but they'll have specialists. They'll have guys that are better at catching the football out of the backfield than others, assuming they actually throw to the guys out of the backfield this year. But it just seems like that's exactly the formula the Eagles are going to use. Whoever's hot is getting the football.
Yeah, I believe him in this situation. I really do. A lot of times coaches say things that they don't mean, but I do believe Sirianni that they're going to go with the hot hand. And not only the hot hand, but I think they're going to try to exploit certain matchups. You look at this New England Patriots defense. Last year, they were number 6 against the run. They have the ability to stop the run. So when you have a team like that, well, maybe it doesn't make sense to pound Rashad Penny up the middle 15 times a game. Maybe it does make sense to get DeAndre Swift on the outside, throw some passes to him, because their pass defense wasn't as good. They were the 16th ranked pass defense last year. So I do think you'll see them try to exploit different matchups and then go with the hot hand, and maybe even the hot hand in that particular game where you're not going to know. It's going to be kind of like the New England Patriots used to be. I used to hate owning New England Patriots running backs in fantasy football because you never knew who the guy was who was going to get all the touches. I think you'll see the same thing. If Rashad Penny looks good, maybe he gets the bulk of the carries. If Kenny Gainwell looks good, maybe he does. It's a good problem to have, especially in today's NFL, to try to rely on just one running back. We see how these guys can get injured. It's nice to have 4 fresh legs who all have the ability to carry the football.
I'm going to ask you this question. When it comes to breakout seasons, but this is how I'm going to clarify. This is how I'm going to phrase it. When it comes to a breakout season, whether it's a rookie or maybe it's somebody that was, fermenting for a year, just kind of getting ready to play. Who do you think is going to have a breakout surprise season? Maybe not even surprise, just a breakout season for the Philadelphia Eagles, offense or defense this year?
So I don't know if you could really classify this as a breakout year, but I'm going to say Josh Sweat. I think that Josh Sweat is going to be the sack leader on this Philadelphia Eagles defense.
Wow.
We have seen everyone's high on Hassan Reddick, as am I, and Nolan Smith, and BG's coming back. But Josh Sweat, you look at how he has gotten better every single year, went from 4, 6, 7.5, last year, 11 sacks. I'm expecting a big number from him. I wouldn't be surprised if not only is he leading the Philadelphia Eagles in sacks, if you see him in the top 3 of the NFL in sacks. He's just so damn athletic, so quick around the edge, looks great through training camp. That's who the guy I'm expecting big things from on that defensive side of the ball.
Nothing is more music to my ears than a breakout season after a breakout season. Like this is, no, he's going to break out even more than you thought last year or something. Forget about it. This is the year.
And he's probably got the best celebration after a sack when he just wipes the sweat off his forehead. So subtle.
Yeah, exactly. How much of Hassan Reddick is in Nolan Smith?
Man, what they refer to him as, he looked like a smaller version. Yeah, little Hassan Reddick, but he looks like a very similar player. Leading up to the draft, when I was doing videos about the draft, I kept saying I wanted the Eagles to get Jalen Carter or Nolan Smith. I still can't believe they got both of them. And I kept comparing Nolan Smith to Hassan Reddick. He just looked a lot like him from a size perspective, played a similar style of game. So let's hope what you don't want to hope is that it takes him as long as it took Hassan Reddick to figure out how to play in the NFL. Because Hassan Reddick did not play very well in his first 3 seasons. It's been the last 3 years where we've seen him get double-digit sacks every single year. But there were some people saying Hassan Reddick was a bust when they went in the first round and really didn't play too well in his first few years. So I don't expect it to take Nolan Smith as long to get up to speed coming out of that Georgia program. Not saying anything negative about Temple. I'm a Temple guy, but different program, Temple and Georgia. So as much as I think Nolan Smith looks like Hassan Reddick, he's got a lot of the same skill set, that speed around the edge. Let's hope he can start to make an impact right away.
Did you notice that while you're at Broad and Cecil B? It wasn't exactly Georgia? No way.
Yeah.
Go figure.
A little bit different. A little bit different.
And then the other thing I want to try to get a realistic expectation. If you talk about a breakout year for Josh Sweat, last year was certainly a put the league on notice type of year for Jalen Hurts. It goes without saying. But, I mean, what can we see him improve upon? Like, what do you want to see from Jalen Hurts other than winning the MVP and winning the Super Bowl? Just about his game specifically. What is it about Jalen Hurts you want to see in the upcoming season that'll say, wow, he even improved on that this year? What would it be?
It's such a hard question because, like you said, he made such a giant leap. Everybody last offseason wanted to see him get better as a passer. You wanted to see him get more accurate. You wanted to see him not immediately run the ball and go through his progressions and make his reads. He did all of that last year. So I do think he's probably put in work trying to get even better when it comes to accuracy. But really what I'm hoping to see is just another year in this offense. We talked about it last year. I think last year was the first time Jalen Hurts had the same offensive coordinator since high school. Something crazy. College and
14.
Pros.
Yeah, I think it's since 14 years old.
Yeah. So, even though he's changing offensive coordinators again, at least it's going to be the same type of offense. And I really want to see even a stronger command. He had such a good command of the offense last year, but you heard Nick Sirianni talk about it this offseason that Jalen Hurts really knows this playbook inside and out. And I expect you to see maybe some more changes at the line of scrimmage. What made Peyton Manning and Tom Brady so damn good was their ability at the line of scrimmage to change plays and take advantage of whatever the defense was giving them. I expect you to see Jalen Hurts not get to that level yet, but to really start to have a strong command of this offense and be able to make some decisions at the line of scrimmage that's going to have a lot of success.
Understood. Bill Colarulo, great catching up with you, my friend. I'll be doing a lot more work with you throughout Jacob Media throughout the football season. I know we've already launched a couple of shows, a couple of pregame, a couple of postgame shows under our belt already, a couple of Birds 365s, a couple of national football shows. We've been just having ourselves a time.
Some postgame, and we'll be live at the Ocean Casino on Sunday, Farzy.
I can't. I'll tell you right now, Ocean Casino is fantastic. They are such a great time just to go and have on set at the sportsbook there at Ocean, the gallery at Sportsbook at Ocean Casino. Bill Colarulo, thanks so much, brother. Appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Go Birds.
Absolutely. Make sure you check out Legal Hands to the Face podcast, our friend Bill Colarulo, for all things Eagles. My thanks to Bill Colarulo joining us right there. Ladies and gentlemen, always good to catch up with Bill. And yes, catch us at Ocean Casino, by the way, because we will be doing the halftime show for Jacob Media. So plenty more of that. Plenty more of that came from, folks. Plenty more of that came from. Let's get to the chat check and see how you wonderful people are doing on this fine day. Professor Dutch. Yes, that was obviously sad news. Sad news. Sorry, I had to be the one to inform you. Again, if you have an opportunity to reach out to Hugh, whether it's social media, for instance, hit him up. I think people. There's this big conversation today about thoughts and prayers. Like, oh wow, you sent thoughts and prayers, so you did nothing. Something like that. I think it just really helps to know that many people are thinking of you. Like that, to know that people their day has been affected by your tragedy. I think that at least makes you think that that you're not going through it alone. People are here to support you. I think that absolutely helps. So if you can hit them up, hit them up. April, good morning. Didn't say I have to watch the end of the game. I didn't miss much. Sean Kilrain, Trey goes on paternity leave. I go to bed. All hell breaks loose. 8-0. Yeah, Sean Kilrain. Here's the deal. I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to save it for the morning rush, but I'm going to get into it right now because we got a lot of the morning rush. Here's where I'm at with Trey Turner going on paternity leave. Fine. That's where I'm at. Here's an unpopular opinion. It's the birth of a child. Be there for the birth of your child. $300 million. Yeah, $300 million. He's still a human being, and he's about to be a dad for the second time. You be there. Yeah, I have no issue with that whatsoever. I actually love it. Anyone that can be there for the birth of their kid, you should be there for the birth of your kid. It's kind of worth it. Sean Gillespie, morning, everyone. Good morning, Sean Gillespie. April, I'm not mad at Sosa's defense. Sosa got a hit and saved a run. In the second inning of last night's game, he made that great diving catch. That was one thing that you failed to mention, by the way, Rob Thompson, after the game. Where was the third inning? What the heck? I didn't make a note of that? Whatever inning it was, he made a great catch. That's the bottom line. That's all that matters. Made a great catch yesterday. Yeah, third inning of the game. So third inning could have even been worse. Damn it. Yeah, third inning, Carpenter strikes out. Batten grounds out to third. Grisham goes out there to get a 2-out double. And then Kim. Yeah, it was off Kim. So third inning of the game. It was the fourth inning they got run, 3 runs. But third inning of the game, you have a runner in scoring position. Kim's at the plate, hits a line drive, destined for left field with 2 outs. And Edmundo Sosa rises up and makes the catch. So now Trey Turner has to call his second born child Edmundo. That's the way that works. But yeah, it was a rough one as far as that game went last night. Still on the Farzy Show YouTube page to get the Jacob Media in a second. Come Sunday, starts the Hurt season on the road to the big show. Damn right, Sean Kilrain. Love it. Sean Kilrain, Edmonds will be the 4th linebacker playing the hybrid. See, Edmonds or Evans will be that 4th linebacker. I don't disagree with that. Jumping over to the Jacob Media YouTube channel. What's going on? Whoa! Farzy can't bench the bar. A regular on the Fightins post-game show here on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. Farzy can't bench the bar. The Fightins aren't a good baseball team. Come on. By the way, for the record, for maybe people that don't hear me read this name a lot, I can bench the bar, and by golly, I'm going to prove it one day. I'm going to prove it. But anyway, Farzy can't bench the bar. Farzy, I'm worried about the Phillies. They were like 4 for 17 runners scoring position in the 9-7 game. Oh yeah, that's not good. But just in particular, yesterday they were terrible. Walk is 11-2 with a 2. It's not easy game today. No, it is not an easy game today. Not at all. Michael Waka has been incredible this year. He got hit around 2 starts ago. I'll go through it in the morning rush. But anyway, yeah, it was rough. Farzy Zibbers is playing at Citizens Bank Park against the Cubs or Wrigley Field is important. 1,000% agree. Would love to give the Cubs 4 hours of hell, as Rob Thompson described it. Yes, please. Farzy, did you catch any fish? Yes. Over Labor Day, I caught a fish. It was like I would say about a 3-pound bass. It was nice. On a lure. One of them lures, I forget it's not a, what do they call it? It's not a crank. What the hell do they call it? I forget. Kayak fishing, nonetheless. If you haven't kayak fished, it's a whole new ball game. So it's on the kayak, and you have to, and it kind of thing that floats on the top of the water, and then you see the bass fly up out of the water, and yeah, that's me pantomiming, perfect pantomime, me catching a bass. On the Shenandoah Rivers. Forgot it's pronounced southernly, and not like you're from coal mine country, like my grandfather was. Did you catch a fish? Yes, I caught a fish. Farzy, it's time to move Nick to the 5-6 slot. Nick Castellanos, you might be right. You might be right on that. Farzy, can you tell Steven? You can tell Farzy has passion about the Eagles, but his real passion is the Fightins. I've always been a baseball first guy, but I do love the Eagles. I mean, it's there. Also, the Phillies are playing games. Try jockeying for playoff position. The Eagles are about to play a game. About to play a game. Thanks, everyone in the chat. You guys are great as per usual. Let's get to the Morning Rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Speaking of those Philadelphia Eagles, ladies and gentlemen, here are your Philadelphia Eagle 2023 captains: Jalen Hurts, Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Lane Johnson, Darius Slay, both wide receivers, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and Jake Elliott, special teams capitan. Those are your captains, ladies and gentlemen, announced yesterday by your Philadelphia Eagles. Not as dramatic. Last year was dramatic. Darius Slay. He was just crying. He was crying and all. And also, I can't do the rest of the show without this. Whoops, wrong one. There we go. Danny Green back with the 76ers, signing a one-year deal with the 10-9-8 76ers. At least one person is excited about it. His name is Tyrese Maxey. Danny Green. Tyrese Maxey tweeted out last night, quoting Woj's tweet announcing the acquisition by the 76ers. Let me tell you where I'm at with this. Fine. This is not an earth-shattering move. I'm sure it's not for mega huge Kajunga money. I'm sure this is for peanuts. After he played for the Sixers last in 2022, at the end of the 2022 season, he moved around a wee bit. He was at the Grizzlies for a couple games. He was with the Cleveland Cavaliers for a couple games. And when I say a couple of games, I mean he played for the Grizzlies for 3 games. He played for Cleveland for 8 games. So I don't have any problem with this. This is bringing in a veteran. This is bringing in a guy who can shoot. This is bringing in a guy who's barely going to play. Barely going to play. I'm not excited about it. I won't even say I'm happy. I'm fine with it. That's it. I'm fine with it. I know a lot of people are jumping to some piping hot takes about it, but I'm fine with it. It's as simple as that. Thanks for, hold on. One more thing. Let's get to that matchup for tonight's game. Or this afternoon, I should say. So 4:05 start time for the Phillies as they take on the Padres, going for the series win. They don't want to drop back-to-back series at this point. Zach Wheeler gets started against Michael Wacha. As I mentioned earlier, Michael Wacha is, on fire. 11-2, 2.85 ERA. Bounced back from a 4-run performance against the Brewers, by the way. He went 5 1/3, allowing 4 runs on 4 hits, did allow a home run, and walked 5 against the Brewers. But bounced back after that, just fine and dandy against the San Francisco Giants 5 days ago. He went 6 innings, allowing just 2 runs on 6 hits. So he gets the start against the Phillies today. He has had himself a great season. As for Zach Wheeler, he came back down to earth a little bit after a phenomenal start where he went 7 innings, allowing just 1 run against the St. Louis Cardinals. He struggled a little bit against the Milwaukee Brewers, allowing a home run against the Brewers, 3 runs on 5 hits and 6 innings of work. But 20 strikeouts in his last 2 games, 10 in each. So that's at least good to see. Folks, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Birds 365 is coming up in about 45 minutes on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. I'll be back with you guys tomorrow. Sean Desai speaks to the media this morning at 9:45. So we'll break down what Sean Desai has to say about taking on Mac Jones and the New England Patriots. Thanks for watching, everybody. Be back with you guys tomorrow and tonight for Fighting's postgame on the Jacob Media YouTube channel. See you guys then. Bye.